Welcome to session 2 of Friday. We have 2 really exciting presentations for this session, and I just want to welcome everyone here in person, and also all of you who are participating virtually to the Organic Seed Growers Conference. And we are going to be speaking with Javier Carrera, as well as Jennifer Bailey and Jim Embry. We're going to be starting out today with Javier Carrera and his presentation, Growing Seed Freedom in Latin America, Lessons from the Field. Before we get started, we're going to go over our community agreements. So our community agreements, we all have a role in tending the space. During this conference, we agree to speak for ourselves and make space for others, be as present as possible, be aware of who is missing in each conversation, remember that no one has a monopoly on truth, and everyone's experience is valid, critique ideas, not people, listen to our bodies and tend to their needs, give some grace for technical and logistical difficulties, and aim for connection, not perfection. And just a reminder, this is being recorded also, so it will be available on the Organic Seed Commons after the session. And if you do have questions during the session, we ask that you come up to one of the mics to ask that question. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Javier Carrera. Javier is going to be joining us virtually. Hopefully.
Good morning to you all. I am Javier Carrera. I am the founder and the social coordinator of the Seed Growers Network Network, created what we have in Ecuador. I am here to share with you actually the quick tour of our work, of our struggle to preserve, share, and promote seeds both in our country and specifically in Latin America. I hope you enjoy. So I want to share with you some pictures to illustrate our story. Yeah. So first of all, we are here in Ecuador, in the northwestern side of South America. We have, as you may know, the Galapagos Islands, very famous. We have a very diverse range of climates, including coastal lowlands, temperate highland valleys, cloud forests, cold highland forests, and the Amazon rainforest. And this obviously creates a huge agrobiodiversity of seeds that we are able to produce in Ecuador, but also the seeds we have inherited from our ancestors. Our network is formed by, dated from some years ago. We are right now around 150 families in 15 of the 22 provinces that Ecuador has. And this may not sound like a silly number, but in fact we are a small country, and more importantly, each of these families are local leaders. They work with their community, and they share with them the seeds, obviously, but also promote different programs. In our network, we have the different principles that I want to share with you, and one of them is that to work together. That means that we are not only working seeds, we are promoting actually a lifestyle. We create permaculture principles that we call a regenerative life. And this wasn't the time by anyone at first. The thing is that in 2002, or in 2003, when we had our first revolution, we were only talking about stealing Like later years, as kids, we realized that the street guardians were actually working in a lot of things to the point when we think we were discussing it in the family because father was like that. We even considered changing because these were all the things that we were doing. We were doing everything that our family needs in order to improve the life in accordance to the principles of preserving nature and also social justice. So that means permaculture, upward technology, programs related with our education, level. These are still our main reader to be able to work. And also they are the first step which we're getting outside the society, but we were near that. And the result is what the same, nothing with the same other things. Everything arises from the practice of this panel. So it is a principle we call endogenous development. It means that we don't believe in foreigners about creating the science congress outside of our territorial reality. We believe that development needs to arise from what we experience in our territory. Okay, so what we do with this is we have divided our work into main areas. The first of them is because we feel a strong responsibility towards the skills we have inherited from our ancestors, our what we call the ancestral seed program. Well, you can see here a close about some of our seed guardians. And in the ancestral seed program, what it tries to do is to promote seeds that some of them are well known, but they are still in danger. I mean, some of them are unknown to the general public. So we first of all try to preserve by cultivating them and exchanging them within the network. But we at the same time, like, we realize that, okay, if we are Christianizing ourselves, that's very nice, but the rest of the public don't know a lot, and they will never be truly preserved. They will never stand until people begin to use them as part of the building they could at work. So a very old example is naive corn. So you know about corn, right? For example, the picture I have in the desert. This is a woman from Cotacachi town, and she is showing part of her ancestral seed system. As you can see, corn is very important in our agriculture. In all our regions, turns around the calendar of cultivation of maize. So it's the centerpiece of our food systems in Ecuador. And we have a lot of different varieties. But you can also see in this picture beans, and right there behind their hands also there is some hunting. And everywhere in the Middle North America, this is the way maize was planted. The tree system or the milpa system, as you may know it, here we call it the chakra de maize. And it seems to go always together. And our collection of maize is quite diverse. These are, for example, three core ancestral varieties. It's very long and hill one is of special importance because it is very, very old. We know that because of how the grain grows and the number of rows that the corn crop has. And I am crazy to tell you, this, for example, may not look very impressive, but in fact is a, how do you call it, a floor corn, a very, very good coordinated floor. and it's big. And the most interesting thing, it grows at 3,200 meters above sea level. It's the only one will have that grow at that altitude. It's quite high. It's called Magnetic Startup. So I'm always also in love with these kind of magnets, that are so beautiful. But we don't not only work with layers, obviously, there are other things. I cannot show everything to you, but for example, this one is interesting. I didn't already cooked, but this, what is this? It looks like cassava, like yuca, right? But actually, it is an Andean fruit called Midabilis expansa. And this is almost different, like breathing. We are multiplying from one plant, one of our seed gardens found in the backyard, growing wild actually in the backyard of a very old midwife, an indigenous midwife in the Northern Highlands. So he found one plant, multiplying that plant until he got 300 little plants to share, and we distributed that all around the country, and part of that was lost at the end, but some of us are still cultivating this plant. And the Arabic expansa is roots that also believed are edible, soups for example, but the wood is very special. It has a flavor like nothing else. And it can grow up to 3,500 meters or even 4,000 meters above sea level, and also in temperate valleys. So it has a lot of potential for the future. And you can still not find it in supermarkets or even in traditional markets today. Our network is kind of like the only source for this plant right now. And you see it here cooked because one important aspect of our ancestral seed campaign is learning. It's up here. We work with chefs, young chefs, famous chefs that are also crazy for agroecology, organic agriculture, and things like that. And with them, we try to create new recipes. And we ask them to use these flags in the restaurants, and we think that this will promote in the general public the use of these flags. But we are not only the ones doing this actually. There's a growing movement in Latin America is trying to preserve traditional seeds this way. But sometimes this can get us to gentrification, meaning that only in very well-known famous restaurants will cook these foods. And we don't agree with that. We love them, we love the chefs, we work with them, but we think that we need to also work in the more general hub and make these things affordable. So let me show you a very interesting experience we had. I hope that you will not shock you. This is just part of our culture. This is a group of Javier women from the Ecuadorian Amazon making cassava tortilla in the traditional way. That is the traditional way. You need to ferment the cassava, and the best fermentation method is chewing the cassava. Not everything, obviously, not that whole bowl of cassava has been chewed. They just chew parts of it, and then they just spin it in your hand, mix it all, and let it ferment. And here are the tortillas being cooked with the rest of the family, the group. And what we would say about it? Well, not everyone will agree to eat a food stuff like that. But it is important to preserve the knowledge for the people who are part of that culture. And the teaching out of cassava is an extreme version of what we call the anthropology of food in Ecuador. So there are a lot of other practices that are not that extreme that we are trying to share. So, for example, we have our version of corn, the fermented use of the agave plant. So what previously one of the most important foods in the temperate highlands of Ecuador, and now is being forgotten. And we are trying to promote and preserve that through different aspects of education. So that's part of our work. The other part of our work has to do with new seeds, because today people are very interested in more modern crops. Like here we see some grains, and we are teaching people how to do seed selection in grains. We have lost several of our traditional grains, like the traditional wheats of Ecuador are completely lost. We are trying to find new varieties that are low on the protein, that make people intolerant, to begin a process of selection. So in the case of modern crops, what we try to do is to create local varieties through processes of participatory plant breeding, including especially the techniques of evolutionary populations, like not focusing so much in every variety, but mixing varieties and then making a selection among them all, and participating with the user, the final user of the food, like families, chefs, markets, etc. So communication is very important for us. And here we have like a group of people who graduated from the advanced permaculture program, and it is an adaptation of permaculture through the indigenous lens. The guy in the far left, in the blue jacket, is the teacher, and Rogelio has taught already around 1,500 indigenous farmers in techniques of indigenous permaculture. So that is also very important for us. So we call that the Farmers Empowerment Program. Another aspect that is very important for us is communication to digital media, because we realize at some point that we may have a lot of knowledge and seeds preserved within the network, but what's that worth if the rest of the population doesn't know? So we began like making publications like this. Here we have seed potato, how you can reproduce seed potato. Yeah. Here we have a campaign we made for preserving seeds in the Galapagos Islands. Only 1% of the Galapagos Islands agricultures produced in an organic way. So we were trying to promote agroecology and seeds in the Galapagos Islands. This is about the same. Here we see another of our treasures, the Erythrina edulis tree, also called poroton here, which is, for me, the most delicious bean ever in the world. There's nothing like it, and it is gigantic. It's very big, as you can see it, and you can make so many things with it. And it's a tree that grows up to 6 meters high, and it has a very important role as a wildlife attractor. Birds are attracted to it, like hummingbirds and also other pollinators. And it's a food crop for animals too, like cattle, and incredible source of protein. And you don't need to plant it every year. So we are trying to promote this kind of plants that have been forgotten and are more useful than the modern ones that are replacing them. Sorry, and that is for Atrus. So our publications, I will come back to this beautiful one. Our publications in social networks, we use mainly Facebook and Instagram. We have a little below 90,000 followers, but we have managed in the last 4 years to reach around 42 million people with our posts. So that is very impressive, even for me. I don't understand that kind of numbers. And this has been very important, actually, for another of our programs, which is the advocacy program. And actually, this was the most important thing I wanted to share with you. The legal struggle for seeds in Ecuador has been very important. We have been fighting since 2000, in the year 2000, actually, different waves of privatization of seeds in Ecuador. always coming in the end from the same source. And there are two main problems. One is the introduction of transgenics, which is still not legal in Ecuador. We fought hard with a lot of other organizations, and we managed to put in the constitution of our country, transgenics are not allowed, just like that. Because it was a very important struggle that the indigenous movement and the farmers movement in Ecuador fought for more than a decade, but still we got to that point. But in the year 2016, I would put another picture too. It was crazy. Let me see. In the year, just to have something in the background. In the year 2016, the National Assembly, the Congress of Ecuador, proposed a new law that was demanding that every seed that circulates in the country must be certified. So this is very common all over the world today, and it's part of all this movement of the UPOV agreements and all that. And what it means is that all the seeds that are certified by the state can circulate in the country. And all over Latin America, these laws already exist, even if they are not implemented. But our organizations, our partners in other countries know about this, and they are also fighting. And when this idea came to Ecuador, we were very fortified, because it means the end for agrobiodiversity legally. It means that a person who wants to sell seeds have to be registered as a seed producer, and obviously you need to have an academic title or to hire someone who has it in order to be a seed producer. So 99% of farmers will be out of that, okay? So secondly, your farm has to be certified as a seed production unit, which is again the same problem. You have to have someone on your payroll who is certified as a seed producer with academic title and all that. And third, the seed you are producing, like every batch of seeds you are producing, needs to be certified too. And the seed you are producing has to be a certified seed. So I'm putting like the extreme case, but those extreme cases are not so rare actually in other countries. I don't have the time to go on this subject at length, but I was able to witness in Germany how a seed that was being produced by Demeter seeds was not allowed by the state to be sold because it didn't have the minimum diameter defined by the German law that a carrot has to have. And this was a very crazy moment when a Bolivian farmer, a woman who didn't even speak Spanish, only Aymara, told the German farmers, well, you are not real farmers anymore, and you are not free if you are not free to produce any seeds you like. Because seeds are the first step of our freedom. Without total control of our seeds, we are not farmers anymore. And that really went into my heart. So when in 2016 we had this proposal from the Ecuadorian Congress, we decided to fight, and we realized that most of the farmer movements and indigenous movements were not aware. They didn't understand how grave, how important this situation was. So we began to make free workshops to explain the subject and why it was unconstitutional, the proposal of the state. And we managed to have several meetings where even organizations that were not on talking terms were sitting together on the table to discuss what to do. And we managed to form a national coalition, a national coalition of movements that managed not to stop the law, but to make significant changes to it. So the law that was approved in December of 2016 by the Congress didn't impose certification on every seed in the country, but created two systems. One system was the conventional one. It's called IDEF, conventional seeds. And the other one, they struggled to give it a name. That was very funny. They were for a long time trying to find a name and even consulting with us, like, are they farmer seeds? Not because not everyone not everything is farmers. Are they native seeds? No, some of them are actually Creole seeds. So they are Creole seeds. No, some of them are native. So even said they are folklorical seeds, which was the most funny thing they said. And in the end of the discussion, we were just telling them, well, they are seeds, they are seeds. They're just the real seeds. The industrial seeds are the different ones that need a name. But they didn't listen to us on that. They ended up calling them traditional and farmer seeds. And the law went like that. But in that law, we realized that there was a huge imbalance, that the conventional industrial seeds had all kinds of support by the state. And our farmer seeds didn't have any kind of support by the state, any kind of recognition. And there were still some aspects of the law that were very dangerous, that could lead to control anyways. So what we did was to join forces again with other organizations. And in the year 2017, we began a trial in the Constitutional Court of Ecuador against the state about the law of seeds. And I want to share with you just very quickly, where is my document? The result of that was that sorry, I cannot show it like that. Yeah. In the year 2022, we had the final sentence of the court was agreeing with us. So that was a huge moment for us. We were very happy for it, to the point of pride. And right now, to my knowledge, Ecuador is the only country where we have managed to preserve the right to seeds, meaning total freedom of seeds. Everyone can produce any kind of seeds, and there's not transgenics. They are still out, obviously, but people have the right to produce, to give away, and to sell seeds without any need of certification. And this is the main thing I wanted to share with you, because we believe it's a struggle that everyone needs to do in the seed movement all over the world. Seed freedom, as it has been promoted also by Nabdania International and by Bandana Shiva, is a principle. No, it's not a principle. It is a human right. It should be considered as part of human rights. This is from Peru. It's a ceremony where they dress maize and potatoes like that. And to me, it tells a lot, This is what it means to us. They are people. They are persons. And they have rights. And we have rights regarding them. And seed freedom is the first and most important one. As the Bolivian farmer said, if we lose control of our seeds, we are not farmers anymore. That's the end point, So finally, I want to share some resources with you. I will actually open up a web browser and share with you directly. This is our website at redsemillas.org. I can share a document with all the links. And we have several resources we want to share with everyone. Like here we have publications. And this is a very important one, is our seed production manual. It is in Spanish, Portuguese, and English. You can download it for free. I am not sure if I will be able to actually download it right now, so I have it here. And we try to create materials for sharing that are simple as this, for educational purposes. And we have also other guides here, like this one, which is the cooking guide for ancestral seeds. And other resources you can see there. We have also our podcast. It is in Spanish. Um, we are already in episode 137, and the purpose of the podcast is to share personal stories of people who are walking the path of ecological and social regeneration. So not only seeds, but a lot of other aspects too. Some of them are amazing, like 132 plantas alimenticias no convencionales is unconventional food plants within Atrus, who's an expert on that. And it is very interesting to learn about that. You can also check out our podcast in our YouTube channel, which is Redes Guardianes de Semillas here. And also we have several shorts and documentaries there for you to check out. So that's, yeah, I could tell you a lot more. I could talk actually for ages about what we do and about every seed guardian we have, because as I told you, they are all leaders. They do an amazing work. And the main thing we do is try to connect them and promote their work. I told you before that our work in the social media has been important for our advocacy. And this is totally true. I know that the state, the other organizations, etc., wouldn't listen to us unless the reason would they listen to us is because we have such a strong presence in the social media, and we choose our fight, and we choose also the moment to fight. Like the fight for this freedom in the law was just before presidential election, so the government was very sensible to any kind of critique in the social media. And we were just like rising up, the temperature in our posts to make them react. And so that kind of thing is very important. So our investment in the social media pays off a lot and is a recommendation for all seed movements. Also, I want to share with you the idea that we cannot work only in seeds, not in seeds alone. There are so many aspects. Like here in Ecuador, when we talk about seeds, we need to talk about interculturality, because we have strong indigenous populations and strong Afro populations and several different mestizo mixed populations. And the best thing you can do with seeds as with people is just to share among these different cultures, among these different varieties of seeds, about these different ways of cooking the seeds, of using, of preserving foods. Also, in our Andean culture, we don't think, when we think about seeds, it's not only plants, it's also animals. So we are also trying to preserve all the heirloom animal races, are important for us. And the fight to preserve food waste is also like very central to what we do. We also have our own participatory guarantee system, which is very important, and we use it as a way to introduce new people to the network. We're all the time looking for new leaders. I'm calling here these people local leaders, but for the local populations at the beginning, they are actually the crazy person of the town, like the crazy guy who makes compost, who has composting toilets, and who preserves these strange seeds that nobody else is planting. And often these people are alone. And the main thing they need is not actually money, it's promotion. So when local people realize that there are people coming to visit this guy or this woman, there are people making workshops with them, and they are selling things and creating new markets. So local people begin to be interested in what they do. And they actually turn from the local crazy person into the local hero. And that's when we can make the change that matters. So we are a small organization. We don't have a big budget at all. We do what we do, with the resources available. And the results of what we have done are amazing. And I think the most important way to look at that is the moral, the social capital we have in the country. There are people who are very jealous in a way of our network, but most people in the country think very highly of our work. And I say this with a lot of humility and also pride. It's not for myself, but for all these crazy local heroes who are not only saving seeds, but using seeds as a way to save the world. Yeah, we are these kind of crazy people who still exist, who actually believe that we can change the world and save. So that's a quick resume, a quick tour. I hope you like it. Time was very short. Just wanted to tell you that as we work here in Ecuador, there are other networks in other countries of Latin America. We are working very closely with people in Chile, in Colombia, now getting into work with Mexico too, and we hope that an international coalition can be formed, but by seed guardians, by people like us with their hands in the ground. So to everyone who is doing this kind of work everywhere in the planet, a big hug to all of you, and let's keep planting. Have a nice day. Good morning to you all. I am Javier Carrera. I am the founder and social coordinator of the Seed Guardians Networks of Ecuador, Red de Guardianes de Semillas del Ecuador. I am here to share with you, let's call it a quick tour of our work, of our struggle to preserve, share, and promote seeds, both in our country and to a lesser degree in Latin America. I hope you can.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone, for for being here for Javier's presentation. He is available for questions through our Zoom link and also through the Organic Seed Commons. So he isn't able to address questions live right now. And I wanted to just pass on his email as well if you have a question for him. It is rumina@yahoo.com. Again, that's rumina@yahoo.com. And I think just listening to the power of his work, that you should all also take out your phones at some point today, or whatever device you have, and start following Seed Guardians Network of Ecuador, because it sounds like just the power of the social media work that they have done has just been really impactful. So thank you again to Javier for that inspiring presentation. Next, we're going to hear from Jennifer Bailey and Jim Embry on Seed Cosmology of Indigenous and African Women, Our Vision of Becoming Good Ancestors. Jim considers himself stardust condensed in human form that represents billions of years of Earth's evolution. As an evolutionary being, his purpose is to contribute to a paradigm shift towards sacred Earth consciousness, and refers to himself as a sacred Earth activist. Welcome, Jim. We're so happy to have you here. Yes. And Jennifer Bailey. Jennifer's lifelong passion for history has led her on a spiritual journey of family and sharing stories of liberation of the Underground Railroad and connections with the land. With familial roots in farming from both southwestern Ohio and southwestern Georgia, Jennifer pays respects to her lineage by lifting up the land, food, and community to better know herself and understand her roots. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Kirk. Go down. Go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land. Tell my people, tell old Pharaoh, let my people go.
Go down, Moses, way down in organic seed alliance land. Tell old Pharaoh, let my people go. There are still pharaohs walking the earth. There are pharaohs in institutions, organizations, and some say even in the White House. But we must all be a Moses, somewhat like Harriet Tubman, Moses of her people, who used the Underground Railroad to free her people. So as we're planting seeds in the ground, as Brother Javier said, let's use our seed work to free the people. That's all the people, the human people, plant people, animal people, air people, fire people, mountain people, rock people. Free the people.
So Jim Embry and I were here to you from the great state of Kentucky and the great state of Ohio. Today we have a way for you to sign in to stay informed and to be connected to us. We're going to show this. This is the QR code that we created, so we encourage you to use your own device and sign in if you'd like. This is voluntary, and we'll also show the QR code at the end of our session as well today. Pausing for a moment for you to take a picture.
Yes, we're trying to use technology. We recall being at a conference with Ohio State a couple of weeks ago, and we pretty much use our devices to communicate back and forth, provide PowerPoint and whatever else. So we believe in using what's out there in terms of useful modern technology.
So here we are, the great state of Ohio is highlighted, and also Kentucky. And here's where I'm from, Troy, Ohio. I have agrarian roots on both sides of my family, as was mentioned. I grew up on a Christmas tree farm in Ohio that my parents started. And in that way, I've been born into the limestone rock of Ohio. I'm the granddaughter of the Great Migration. We had farms in our family, and clearly as African descendants, we were brought here to this place for the purpose of agriculture.
My folks came to the Americas around the late 1790s, largely out of Nigeria, went into Virginia, and then were kind of forced walked across the Appalachian Mountains, which, as we all know, some of the oldest mountains in the world. So I hail from the area, the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. The farm I live on goes back to around the year 1800, when we were brought over here in enslaved condition. The area is fed by the Kentucky River watershed. And like Jennifer, the soil, the land, is heavily mineralized with limestone rock. And that's where I'm from. That's what's made me. The mountains, the rivers, and the soil. Not always a degree I got from a university. Part of our work around seed cosmology is to relate to the earth in those kinds of ways, where we describe where we're from based upon the bioregion. About 2 or 3 years ago, as we were hosting the Ujama Seed Spring Convening, we began to conceptualize this idea of seed work based upon a bioregional approach, based upon river systems. And we created what's called the Cumberland Seed Commons, which is a multi-function entity that's based upon local seed communities, but based upon a bioregional structure.
Again, we think we need to move beyond cities and counties, that are human-made forms, and approach a more of a bioregional approach. And here's kind of a modeling of what we've done with that. Here's a sense of that Cumberland River, the headwaters are about an hour from our farm in East Kentucky, goes into Tennessee, goes all the way across the state, goes by our friend, your friend, my friend, Al Gore's farm near Nashville, comes back into Kentucky near my in-laws' farm in West Kentucky before entering into Mississippi River. Again, we're saying we love the virtual seed commons. That's a great platform. We're also encouraging each of us when we leave here to take your water systems and think about how you can go home. Maybe use this model as a seed commons within your bioregional area based upon the water systems, not based upon the university, not based upon your county and city, but the water systems that might have something to do with seeds.
Our talk today, as you can see, is grounded in indigenous wisdom, grounded in African wisdom, and also grounded in earth wisdom, which is where our wisdom comes from. And for me, I feel that it's such an important responsibility to be here and to be speaking and to be practicing learning. So I'm grateful for all of you and your interest. Right here, we've got the picture of the Sankofa bird, which is from Ghana, from the Twi people. And it's a symbol that signifies that we go back in order to go forward. So you can see in the bird's mouth, there's a seed, which is a seed of the future. And it speaks to us powerfully to have these kinds of symbols that inspire our way forward, that we need to look back. And that's not something that we often do in our culture, is look and learn from our history.
And while this bird is on the screen, I want to acknowledge in the back of the room are some dear friends of ours who've arrived here from Kenya. And we saw them earlier, and I was in tears that they've come all the way, over here from Kenya. We love you all so very much. Look on the schedule, find their workshops. And in my view, Organic Seed Alliance, I've been saying this for 2 years with our planning committee. They ought to be a model in Kenya for what's going on. 90,000 people in their seed network, but follow up on what they're doing. They're here for the whole weekend. We love you all very much. Thank you for being here. And what we're saying about seeds, we have to kind of go back and get more cosmologically earth-centered in what seeds are about. We refer to this universe beginning, they call it the Big Bang. We say it's too masculine, it's too masculine. We call it the big seeding. When this bundle of light and love shattered and began to emerge. So the big seeding is why we're here now. I say, I'm stardust condensed in human form. And our seeds, and we carry this knowledge of all that's gone before us. They said some 14 billion years. So we ground ourselves in that kind of a seeding. And that the earth then formed, right? The earth formed, and then she became a seed and birthed all of us.
So here we have the Big Bang, and we say that again, it should be called the Big Seeding. And then here and on the cosmos are all of us, and you see the seeds in the picture of us.
Yeah. What if we, change how we view planets and stars and drew them as seeds? And I hope y'all that in the evening have been watching the planets all in alignment. It's an incredible experience there. What we're saying, what we need to be grounded in, organic seed growers globally is it's longer since Earth's been around some 4.5 billion years. We've been around as humans about 2 or 3 million years. So we're the newbies on the Earth. We're still maturing as a species. We think we know it all. This morning we had acknowledgement of indigenous people, but they would also say, even before we were here, 200 million years ago, we would call flowering plants and trees came into being. Seeds came into being 200 million years ago. They might know something. That's why we bring up here those spiritual energies. They might know something. How do we begin to talk to seeds? Talk to trees. It's part of this journey of the cosmology of seeds. So we're saying that part of the sense of vision of our Organic Seed Alliance is grounding ourselves in this kind of historical understanding about seeds. It's beyond a particular corn, squash, or bean seed.
So the image above, it shows another kind of a way that we can think of the world and how it began with the water, and then the different species coming out of the water, and then finally the people, and how we can pay homage to ourselves, and because this time is happening so that we see the history and understand the creation story and tell it in a different way, that it's not simply linear, that we're all evolving, and that as the newest species, we still have a responsibility to mature and to be able to, you know, like Javier was saying, not create waves of killing ourselves, killing each other, and extinction. That how do we generate, how do we come together as families to do so?
So our work is around also seed justice, social justice, food justice, environmental justice. And for us, it's important as we project our work to ground ourselves in our nation's 500 years ago founding, founded upon, as we know, stolen land from indigenous people, stolen labor from African people to do what? To do agriculture and foodways. So when we sit here, what we're saying and reaffirming our work around seeds is that our nation's foundational contradiction is around agriculture, which is, the basis of that is seeds. We're also saying not only is it our foundational contradiction, it is the fulcrum point. I'll say it again. The work around seeds, the work around agriculture, the work around justice is the fulcrum point of social transformation. That's what Javier was saying.
We're talking about the different systems, the systems of enslavement, the systems of sending children to boarding schools, and the systems of taking culture from people that need to be repaired. So in order to move forward, we say that there are 6 pathways. There's 6 pathways for a sustainable future. And our first pathway is around earth-centric and woman-centric, as we're defining here today, that women are the carriers of seeds as in our human form, and the earth in her earth form has given birth to all of us as seeds, so that we must in any way forward for a future think about women and where that we are.
Indigenous wisdom. And what we're saying is move beyond just simply a land acknowledgement. When we go home, the question becomes, in our day-to-day work, how are we relating to folks in our area? in our states, in our cities? How well do we interact with indigenous people in our areas? How well are we ensuring that they're coming in and providing the keynote presentation? When we organized last fall in Tennessee, our local food summit, we had two folks coming from the Cherokee tribe in Oklahoma to open up the whole session to talk about seed cosmology from the Cherokee nation's perspective, not from all nations' perspectives. But we're saying that these folks have been around in Turtle Island for 20, 30, 40,000 years, people say. They might know something. And what we're saying, the way forward, that we're grounded in that wisdom, both historically and currently. We also want to remember that we all come from indigenous people. Trace ourselves back. Part of our work is to find our indigenous roots. We're also saying that we're all indigenous to the earth. We must claim our indigeneity. That's what it means, indigenous wisdom.
Our third pathway of George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver is regarded as the premier scientist of his day, and we're saying that his ability, his work with plants and talking to them, understanding that he said God told him that he could have the ability to talk to a plant, and that plant then gave him what could be done with her in the peanut plant. And he had 4 fungi that were named for him. He was a premier mycologist of his day. So we're saying that this work of George Washington Carver, he worked for 4 different presidents, that this is an important way for us to move forward. But it's more than just him. It is also the greater African American ethos that needs to be part of any way forward for the future.
Yes. Jennifer, I do about 25 talks a year, most of them at universities. We work at Ohio State, and they're up there building a 3-story space module going to go to Mars in 2040. And they're using Carver's ideas around growing sweet potatoes to eat the leaves. They're going to be working on how to grow plants in 0 gravity. It's a 9 month to a year journey to Mars, 9 months to a year back. They're using Carver's ideas for that. They're building the space module. On the walls are compressed fungi in the space module. Why? Because fungi are non-toxic, non-flammable. When they break down, you can compost them. At Cornell University, we're working with them. They're researching how to talk to plants and trees based upon Carver's ideas. He's been whitewashed and blackwashed. And we're saying, from the Seed Alliance, ought to be grounded in Carver's ideas. He was a seed man. Went around the South delivering seeds all across the South. Let's claim him as a guiding light to the future.
Art, youth, and hip-hop are a way of communicating. We all embrace art. You know, right outside we've got this beautiful art. We've got lovely books. And that's a way of communicating ideas beyond just what we can say. And youth are our seeds. They're a way for us to be involved with the future. Hip-hop is the way of speaking that we have with youth, and it's all over the world. And Jim, he just gave a wonderful talk about agriculture and hip-hop, because these combinations they're so profound, and they help ideas just flow. And what if Beyonce, what if Lizzo, what if, all of our speakers and musicians were singing about this work? And how fun could it be, right? Like making it pleasurable and play, and just that communication is a sustainable pathway forward.
Yeah, and we're going to move on through here. We've got more slides to cover. The 5th pathway, we say, is seed work and Terra Madre. We hope to see all of you all in Italy next year, the Terra Madre gathering. And part of the Terra Madre gathering has to do with the Ark of Taste and seeds. So we're saying that seed work globally, okay, is a necessary pathway to the future. These are all interrelated. We list them linearly, but they're integrated They're interconnected and interdependent, not singularly. Last pathway is vision, but it's transformative. Yep. And we're asking each person, what is your vision within yourself and your organization? What's the vision within OSA? What's the vision within your various respective seed-saving groups? And by and large, we don't have a vision. By and large, I asked OSA, give me your 10, 20-year vision document. And Laura said, well, we're working on that. On the home page, we've got a few things. I'm saying we need to have 10, 20, 30. Wendell Berry said in his book in the 70s, talk about a 50-year farm bill or a 50-year vision. You got to work a little bit smarter. Rather leave here on Saturday, on Sunday, having formulated various ideas around visions to have a document. But we're then take home and we're guided by that. And we plan the conference in 2 years based upon the first 5-year cycle of the 25-year vision.
So Indigenous wisdom, talking about Turtle Island, there's many different stories that we have of how we came to be. In Indigenous wisdom, we call North America Turtle Island because of the turtle going under the water and then coming up with the soil on its back, and that's the creation story here. And we also talked about 3 sisters, right? The corn being planted first, the beans afterwards, and then finally the squash being grown to protect those corn and vegetables, and that being a central story and a way of us feeding ourselves, taking care of Mother Earth at the same time. If we take care of them, they'll take care of us, and relating it to it in a familial way.
Yes, it's important to recognize that indigenous cultures globally, they refer to like seeds as family members. They're our sisters. If you go up north, where our friend Lola Duke is with the wild rice folk, they call her the grandmother. Well, we invited the Cherokee Nation to speak last December. We talked about them having sent 5 corn rides up to the Norway International Seed Bank. But then we got 4 or 5 pounds of corn, but the blue corn is really, really sacred to us. So part of our work within Organic Seed Alliance, in our work, is to begin speaking and thinking that these are part of our family.
Similarly is the corn. We refer to corn as our grandmother. And without this corn, we likely wouldn't be here today. That corn, that in English we call corn, but it was called teosinte, and it was developed by the women, cultivated by the women for thousands of years, between 15,000 and 9,000 years, so that we would have what sustains us now.
Yeah. So one of our points about this topic around indigenous women African women, is that 15,000 years ago, men were out gathering and gone from the place, and women were there waiting on food to come back and say, "Wait, you brought no food." So women said 15,000 years ago, those things over there that keep growing up, how do I connect with them? So we're saying that women gave us the gift of agriculture. We're talking about seed work, and we're not grounding it in women's cosmology. Something's wrong with that. Clearly, not discounting men by any means. We all come through women, for our last checked.
So our work as Good Ancestors is regarding seed repatriation, bringing those seeds home to the places where they are actually from, that we have had a culture of removing these seeds, putting them in the museums, taking them, stealing them. And today our work is around bringing it back home and creating spaces of understanding, of of reparations out of respect and for humanity and respect for the seeds and Mother Earth, that is a way forward.
Means that when we're doing local seed work, and we're doing great work, we're doing great work, some great things happening, we're also, to ground ourselves in indigenous knowledge, let's learn about what was grown here 500,000, 5,000 years ago. And maybe we invest, maybe we spend time as well, both getting out of the museums that universities have and get those seeds and those kinds of wisdoms back in our local areas. That makes sense?
I also want to acknowledge our dear sister Kim Poole in the audience that has been doing the work of rematriation and reparations globally.
There's a great film. If you haven't seen it, take a picture of it. Seed Mother Coming Home. In there, it shows the work of Rowan White. I mean, you all may know her, be a friend of ours. Shows the work of Vandana Shiva, Wangari Maathai. It's a short video. It's one of the most beautiful I've ever seen. We should all be showing it. We should all be watching it, making it part of our resource, okay? And how we begin the movement, the global movement around seed rematriation.
So Indian education for all. This is, again, something that we should include as part of the OSA. We should include it as part of any organization that we're part of, because without our understanding of fundamental history, then how can we really be grounded in a way that's clear to move forward? And the state of Montana, they have included in their public education Indian education for all, and so that's a leader and a resource for us to look toward.
The idea of seeds being more than just a seed put in the ground. Back when nations was formed and created, Benjamin Franklin and many other folks of note of our nation's founding met with and studied what we call the Iroquois people, the Haudenosaunee people. And they had 5 and then 6 tribes. They knew about democracy. We didn't. So, in many ways, the law of peace from our friends, Haudenosaunee, seeded our government in forms of government, forms of structure. So let's think about how we study those kind of seeds as well.
We're showing this image of African women that were taken, who often, we know that they planted seeds within their hair, braids, okra, rice, ways to ensure their survival when they got to where they were going. And this book, Black Rice, we recommend as a way, because what it shows us is that, yes, these seeds were the same seeds that were taken from Africa that are now in Gala and the South Carolina region, and that, yes, these connections are real. We lift up our sister Wangari Maathai, who was awarded a Nobel Peace Prize for her work. As she celebrates, the quote above about whenever she celebrates, she plants a tree. And she was also the woman to seed over 900,000 businesses of women. And when in the Greenbelt movement, she fought oppression against the government and helped women to rise up and work together to reforest their land.
To remember that the seed work in Kenya was connected with women's oppression and deforestation. So seeds help transform the nation, what Javier was saying. We're going to roll through this pretty quickly. There are a lot of wonderful books that we can recommend. One of them is Something While Black. In our view, it's the Bible for the century. Black meaning that we're all represent this sense of radical thinking, new thinking, crazy people thinking. Listen to Leah Penniman epitomizes this sense of crazy womanhood, okay? Doing things that are really dynamic. So get this book in your library, begin to read it, full of rituals, ideas, practices. Another book is We Are Each Other's Harvest by Natalie Brazil. On the front cover, you see two women, Maria Kim and her sister Naima. Almost looks like Rosie the Riveter during the industrial period. And what we're saying in this period is the image of women with hoes and rakes and shovels that represents this century. Doesn't just mean though black women, it means all women, and it means all men. Have a good connection to the land, to seeds. I have an essay in that book, I'm doing a commercial. The essay is about my family farm I referred to earlier. The title is Ancestral Vibrations Guide Our Land Connection. Okay. And I have in there a quote about that we are the seeds of our ancestors' dreams. Here's again the QR code, takes you to some of our web links, how to connect with us through a Google Doc. Going through all the way down to the end. We got 10 minutes. Okay, we mentioned slow food. We hope you all be with us next year. Okay, everyone's invited. The shirt I'm wearing represents, we brought with us last fall out of the South 20 black farmers. Again, we encourage everyone to join us virtually or in person for the Terra Madre gathering. Many of you all know, you'll hear Ira Wobble speak here today. One of the grandmamas of the Southern Exposure. We love her so dearly. We think that, talking about food, we go to a lot of food conferences about local food, seeds, and whatever else, and no one talks about the very first best local food is breast milk. We've disconnected women entirely from the whole discussion about food, local food, and things of that nature. We've got to reclaim before we all come through. The great book is called Seed Folks. If you haven't read that book, about young people, a young woman who is Asian American who transforms her community. We hope we're all going back home, doing work with young people, saying, you young people are agents of change. We need you all to help transform our communities. We mentioned earlier about the movement globally about the rights of Mother Earth, the rights of nature. I think there was mentioned in Ecuador, Bolivia, arising out of the global South, this whole global movement about the rights of nature. We should go home in our organizations, institutions, OSA, and how do we write up in our bylaws, in our principles, the rights of nature, the rights of Mother Earth. It's important jurisprudence of putting this, as Harvey was saying, was being done in Ecuador. Pull it to the get up here.
So we, again, similar to Javier, we are ending with this beautiful quote from Arundhati Roy, that another world is not only possible, she is on her way. And on a quiet day, I can hear her breathing.
So part of our concluding segment is that North Around Seeds is about us maturing as a species, how to become good ancestors. We use a metaphor of the butterfly, saying we're like caterpillars. We live on one plant, you're a monarch, on the milkwood plant. You eat, you poop, you make a mess. That's how we are as a species. Think we know it all. Rambunctious, predatory. But we're moving into a transition period of going into a cocoon, if you will, of recognizing we're meant to do something at a high level as a species. And in the cell, or in that cocoon, are imaginal cells. We're all imaginal cells. OSA is imaginal cell. Friends from Kenya are imaginal cells. We're all imaginal cells trying to get other cells to recognize, well, there's a higher level of being that we're meant to be. And we're meant to be butterflies, being co-regenerators of the earth, protectors, not predators. So as we go home, say, oh, yeah, I am an imaginal cell. OSA is providing the resources to support, experience, to further our being imaginal selves, because we're meant to be butterflies, not just caterpillars.
Thank you so much, Jim and Jennifer. We now have time for questions. And so if you have a question, you can come up to one of the mics, and they are going to be available to answer questions for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And if we have any questions online as well through Organic Seed Commons, those will also be brought up so they can address them as well.
Dr. Cody,
thank you. I really loved what you said about teaching the children. And I guess my question is, there's so many adults that never got that, and never got that children thing. Obviously, all you're talking about is but yeah, what would you say for the adults that need that awakening? I mean, your whole speech,
Well, I use various points of support, all kinds of documents. In the biblical sense, it says, if you want to go to heaven, come into me as a what? Come into me as a child. I think we get conditioned out of our playful, creative impulses. We're all here to be creative. And then we get dumbed down to, and so over there's the artist, over there too, and not us. We're all creative. We're all divine lights. And to claim that, and for adults, it means in all of our work, finding ways to work with young people. I work with kids who are in preschool, kids who I've helped create gardens in Kentucky in every school in my city, middle school, elementary, high school, the high school ag school. Work with kids who are in drug court. We work with, it's important to connect whatever we're doing with young people. When we go to Terra Madre, we have a whole section of exhibitions space kids can do at every age. We ought to have here, as we grow into, our work with OSA, we ought to have programs, activities for young people. That's the future. It's young people, okay? But again, we get caught up in this Newtonian, Cartesian view of the world, things being separate, and then we live on our navel. And we must develop a way of thinking that's 360, not 90, not 150, 360. That's the world.
Yeah, more than a question. Thank you for your presentation. And basically, that was what the lady asked in the front. Is we work with the youth who are incarcerated, and we also work with the school district and our farm. We're only 30 minutes away. And the biggest challenge that we have is specifically that how do we connect our own youth, our target is indigenous youth, in the spiritual aspect of engaging with our ancestral plants. They're very afraid. They don't want to open the door. We are seen as cuckoo, as witchy. Our ancestral practice are seen that way in contemporary times, and the challenge is that. So my question to you was, in a practical way, how do you engage your youth to open that door?
Invite Jennifer and I to come to your local area. We were 3 days at Ohio State, 3 days. 3 days. And one topic was youth, art, and hip-hop and agriculture. We had a whole 2 or 3 hours based upon that. Again, we do a lot of work with, they'll call the least of these. Many who are locked up, we're with kids in drug court. They come out and we do with them all kinds of things. We do take them to a sweat lodge, okay? And we got to get them outside, okay? Outside with convening what we call nature, the trees, the water, the rivers, the stars, and have them into a sweat lodge and cry and understand the emotion, what they dealt with, okay? Some friends in Santa Cruz are called Barrio Chinitos. You haven't heard of them. They're in Santa Cruz, Barrio Chinitos. They send kids out to the mountains. They do a whole rites of passage, and you get locked up now, rites of passage, and then they they bestow an eagle feather. When the sister graduates or completes it, they have a whole ritual. It's important to have kids where they are. We work with kids who are in alternative schools. Okay, back in Kentucky, all kind of young people got to be patient. Got to be patient and loving. I worked in Detroit. It was a school for teen moms. Okay, young women who were 12 to who were teen moms. 300 of them. Okay, got to be patient. Got to be present. Got to be caring and loving. There's no quick solution. Question back here. Yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you. My name is Wanjama from Seed Savers Network in Kenya. And in Africa, we are dealing with a different struggle where the old practices on seeds are criminalized. This is seed sharing, seed selling, seed exchange. Even seed selling has become a criminal thing, and now women and with this nice presentation here, I see the women are origin of seeds. Now women, when they're dealing with the seeds in the farmers market, they have to hide like they are selling drugs that are illegal, because the only legal seeds are the seeds from corporates, the seeds that are commercial. And the policies are set in a way that now seed access has become a problem, because the only seeds that are allowed to move around are the seeds that are commercial, or they are from companies, and the policies are organized in a way that companies, private sector, they are able to steal farmer seeds by patenting them. So we have a challenge of policies, bad policies, which are global in nature, because they all stem from UPOV, Union for the Protection of New Varieties, which is supposed to protect seeds from companies and to eliminate competition from the farmers. And that creates shortage, creates seed inaccessibility in a way that they are overpriced and killing biodiversity. So in solidarity and in Madra spirit, I think we all need to join hands to come together and see how the seeds could be freed in the global south. Like when I come here and see, for instance, there is no national catalog and people are able to multiply seeds, set seed, small seed companies, and be able to sell seeds as farmers, is a freedom that we don't have. And therefore, in solidarity, we need to see how we can join hands. In some countries, like in Kenya, for instance, farmers have taken government to court for criminalizing farmer seeds. And of course, government also controlling the court process. There is always delay and postponement of the hearing, but we are hoping for the best. But again, it is important also to see how the companies that set those laws, because they are set by companies, can also be held to account in origin countries, because they are from definitely global north, but they go and set these rules and laws in global south and make people hungry by not accessing the seeds that they need. And they are not also, these companies are also not able to supply all the seeds that farmers need in terms of diversity. They only choose the crops that could give them a profit, and those that are not profitable, they ignore. Thank you for this, and we're happy to stay connected as global community.
Yes. Please, as we end up today, the session and the weekend, please give these folks a hug and a high five for coming from Kenya to be here with us. Give them some love. Part of the work is we have to create these networks where we know each other. It's important to meet in person. Okay, we meet out of here. We need all across this country. It's similar work that's being done. And Javier mentioned, that Brother Mandama mentioned, in our areas across the country. What's our 20-year vision for bioregional seed commons because the strength to combat these global forces has to do with how well we're linked locally. Use example, Jennifer mentioned the African American ethos coming after the Civil War. George Washington Carver and the likes of his work at Tuskegee worked with some 2 and 3, 4 million black farmers in the South who were all seed keepers. They were trading seeds, taking seeds all around the South, building networks based upon agricultural gatherings, business gatherings. They had cooperatives everywhere. Where is our vision for having 100 cooperatives in the next 5 years? They were key after the Civil War, cooperatives. So we got to work, again, I'm agreeing, is in how well, how quickly, how fast, determined we create these regional networks, national and international networks is key.
There's a lot of love and gratefulness coming from the online audience here. We've got several dozen people here watching online. We have a question from an online participant asking if you could, and we only have about 2 minutes left, so you might not be able to get full answer here, but they're wondering if you could speak more about the relationship between local waterways and bioregional seeds.
Absolutely. We're going up to Twin Cities. Every year we do what's called a Joy and Justice Journey in June. Now it's Joy and Justice Journey throughout the year. Based around water systems, we're going to go up there with indigenous people. We're going to do a water ceremony. We're going to talk about the Mississippi River, the Missouri River, the history of that. It's essential that we relate to water systems. When I was in Toronto years ago for the Parliament of World Religions, led by up in Canada, the First Nations people, the act of opening up the conference was a water ceremony for indigenous women. I'm saying here at OSA, where do we incorporate those kinds of rituals about water, how important it is, how we have to find ways to connect back with our local water systems, whether they're streams, rivers, waterfalls, is really key to the work. We call it being earth-centric, woman-centric. Got a lot of work to do. Thank you for the online question. I want to come back real quickly to the question of young people. How to get to young people? We said hip-hop, okay? I've been working with young people my whole life. One time I was young. But in the hip-hop, if you go and look at online at our presentation at Ohio State, you'll find in there many examples of young people across the globe who are using hip-hop, rap, breakdancing, whatever else, to tell the story about seeds. There's a friend of ours in Denver named DJ Cavum, who began his own business, has a business called Black Seeds. So the point is, we have to kind of speak the language of young people, okay? Oftentimes get other younger people to come in and help us create these lines of communication, okay? I have a young man back home in Kentucky who was in drug court about 12 years ago. I'm out planting gardens with kids who are in drug court, being locked up, out on community service, began planting trees. He said, "Oh, gee, I ain't gonna get no garden. I ain't digging no damn hole. That's old slave stuff. No, I ain't doing that." I was looking at the judge saying, "Get your butt over here." Anyway, that happened. He was inspired, so he went to college, got an ag degree, has a thing now called Farmer Brown, the MC. She's now an extension agent because I was willing to get in this butt and say, "Come on with me and get in this garden." Sometimes we have to be loving in a way that's saying, "Come on up in here," okay? Does that help? It helps. We love y'all so much. Okay. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Jim and Jennifer. Okay, I want to just, before you all get up, if you could please do a survey really quick and just give us a session evaluation. You can scan right here. I'm feeling kind of competitive. I would love it if this room that I facilitated had the most evaluations submitted. So let's do this. And then I also wanted to just let you all know that this session was recorded. You'll be able to access it through the Organic Seed Commons. So if you haven't logged in and looked at that, please do so. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on in the virtual conference space. We have lunch now, as well as we're going to hear from folks that are doing their research posters. We have synergy spaces as well. And then at 2 o'clock in this room, we will have our keynote with Vivian Sensor. Thank you all so much. Thank you. That was wonderful. Hello, Peter.